Someone in your tribe starts screaming at things that aren't there. They stop eating. They stop sleeping. They attack the people they love. They say the sky is speaking to them. They walk into the forest alone at night and don't come back. There are no doctors, no hospitals, no medication, no diagnosis, no words to even describe what is happening. It's 50,000 years ago, and your entire tribe is staring at this person, someone they've known their entire life, completely terrified. What do you do? The answer is one of the most disturbing and surprisingly human stories in the history of our species. Let's start with what they felt. Because before they did anything, they were afraid. Not afraid of the person, afraid of what was inside them. For 99% of human history, there was no concept of mental illness. No framework, no category. When someone's body broke, a broken leg, a wound, a fever, you could see it. You could touch it. You could try to fix it. But when someone's mind broke, there was nothing to point to, nothing to hold. The body was standing right there, and yet the person you knew was gone. Every ancient culture on Earth came to the same conclusion independently. Something had entered this person. A spirit, a demon, a god, an ancestor. Something invisible and powerful had taken up residence inside a human being and was using their body. This wasn't superstition. This was the most logical explanation available to a species with no knowledge of neuroscience, no concept of brain chemistry, no understanding of psychosis. When you have no other framework, possession is a perfectly rational conclusion. And this belief, that madness was supernatural, shaped everything that came next. So what did they do about it? The first response in almost every ancient culture was the same. They called the most powerful person in the tribe. Not the strongest, not the oldest, the one who could talk to the invisible world. The shaman. Shamanism is the oldest spiritual practice in human history. Evidence of shamanic rituals goes back at least 40,000 years. Cave paintings, burial sites, ceremonial objects found across 6 continents. Every culture that has ever existed had some version of this role. And one of the shaman's primary jobs, perhaps the most important job, was treating madness. The treatment wasn't gentle. It wasn't calm. It was designed to be overwhelming. Drumming that lasted for hours. Chanting, fire, smoke, dancing that pushed the body to its absolute limit. Sleep deprivation, fasting. In some cultures, powerful plant medicines that induced visions so intense they could reset a person's entire psychological state. The goal was not to comfort the person. The goal was to create a crisis so overwhelming that whatever had entered the body would be forced to leave. And here is the part that modern science finds genuinely uncomfortable. Sometimes it worked. In 2016, researchers studying shamanic healing practices found that certain traditional treatments, particularly rhythmic drumming and communal ritual, produce measurable changes in brain chemistry. Elevated dopamine, reduced cortisol, states similar to those produced by modern antidepressants. The shaman didn't know what dopamine was, but somehow, across tens of thousands of years, they had figured out how to change it. But the shaman didn't always succeed. And when the rituals failed, when the person remained lost, ancient societies faced a choice that modern humans never have to make. What do you do with someone who cannot be saved? The archaeological record is honest about this in ways that are deeply uncomfortable to read. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the earliest civilizations on Earth, clay tablets dating back 4,000 years describe people with symptoms we would recognize today as severe schizophrenia, hearing voices, seeing visions, complete disconnection from reality. The prescribed treatment in the most severe cases was isolation. The person was removed from the community, taken to a designated place outside the settlement, left with basic food and water. Not killed, not abandoned, but separated, because ancient peoples understood something that took modern psychiatry centuries to rediscover. That severe psychosis can be contagious, not biologically but socially. That one person lost in terror can pull an entire community into fear. That survival sometimes required a boundary. But here is what the archaeological record also shows, and this is the part nobody talks about. They kept coming back. Food left at the edges of settlements. Objects placed carefully beside isolated individuals. Evidence of continued contact, continued care, across months and sometimes years. They didn't abandon them. They maintained them, at a distance that felt safe. But they never completely let go. Here is where the story gets strange. Because modern psychiatry, with all its medications, all its brain scans, all its centuries of accumulated knowledge, has quietly begun to agree with some of what ancient humans figured out by accident. Community, ritual, belonging, purpose. In 2010, a landmark study tracking schizophrenia outcomes across 20 countries found something that shocked the psychiatric world. Patients in low-income developing countries, countries with far less access to modern medication, were recovering at significantly higher rates than patients in wealthy Western nations. The difference wasn't medication. The difference was community. In traditional societies, people with mental illness were not removed from their communities. They were kept inside them, given roles, given purpose, surrounded by people who knew them. In modern Western societies, we built institutions. We separated the mentally ill from the population. We treated madness as something to be managed behind closed doors. Ancient humans, with no science, no medication, no understanding of the brain, had accidentally discovered something that modern psychiatry is only now beginning to fully accept. That the most powerful medicine for a broken mind is not a chemical. It is other people. So here is what we actually know. 50,000 years ago, when someone in a tribe lost their mind, their people were terrified. They called on the most powerful tools they had. They performed rituals that sometimes, inexplicably, worked. And when nothing worked, they made a painful choice. They separated the person. But they never stopped leaving food at the edge. They never completely let go. Today, roughly 1 billion people on Earth live with a mental health condition. We have medications that can stabilize brain chemistry, brain scans that can map disorders in extraordinary detail, entire hospitals built specifically for the mind, and we have never felt more alone. The suicide rate in the modern world is higher than at any point in recorded history. Loneliness has been declared a global health epidemic by the World Health Organization. In the wealthiest, most medicated, most psychiatrically advanced societies ever to exist, people are losing their minds at a scale our ancestors never saw. Maybe we solved the chemistry, but we forgot the campfire. For 50,000 years, the treatment for a broken mind was the same everywhere on Earth. Someone stayed. Someone drummed. Someone kept bringing food to the edge. Someone refused to let you disappear. We traded that for a prescription, and most of us never even knew what we lost.